And thirdly, I want to say a special thank you to Ian Randall Publishers for their assistance and support and providing us with this beautifully produced book. Let me end with this. Helen dedicated her thesis to her parents, and of course I have retained this original dedication in the book. However, for the edited edition, I have added my own dedication. This is to the memory of Helen Francis Seaman, beloved daughter, sister, brother, friend, teacher, and historian. Thank you very much.
We thank Professor Beckles and Professor Cobley for ensuring that Dr. Francis Seaman's voice continues to inspire. At this time, I would like to call on Mrs. Gwyneth Frederick. We are honored to hear from you. She is representing the people of the Kalinago territory here this evening. She will share her reflections on the book's significance for the Kalinago people and for Dominica as a whole. Please welcome Mrs. Frederick.
Good evening. I adopt protocols already established. When I delivered this speech in Barbados during Carifesta when this book was first launched, I don't think I was so nervous, but I think it's because I said the person is sitting right there. Anyway, I am humbled, and I'd like to say thank you for inviting me once more to deliver the speech here in Dominica. An Unconquerable Spirit. This title resonates powerfully with the history and the lived reality of the Kalinagos and indigenous people of the Waitukubuli, as we know in Dominica and the wider Caribbean region. I am a proud Kalinago who speaks knowing that my own spirit and that of many others today remains unconquerable. For centuries, my people have faced waves of colonization, displacement, and cultural suppression. Yet, much like the central theme of the book, our survival and resilience affirm that we embody an incomparable spirit that continues to endure against all odds. This book message mirrors our experience in three significant ways. One, cultural survival. Despite centuries of colonial violence and efforts to erase our traditions, we, the Kalinagos, have preserved key elements of our language, craft, spirituality, and oral traditions. The continuation of our canoe building, cassava processing, basket weaving, storytelling reflects a determination to maintain identity in the face of overwhelming pressures. This echoes the book's portrayal of resilience as an active and living force. Two, the connection to the land and sea. Our bond with the rugged Atlantic coast of Dominica is inseparable from our identity. Our intimate knowledge of the rivers, forests, seas speaks to the same ancestral wisdom that an unconquerable spirit elevate. Even as external forces sought to strip us of our territory, our relationship with the land has remained a source of strength and survival. Resilience and renewal. Our very survival into the 21st century is a testimony of resistance, from armed resistance during the early colonial period to modern advocacy for recognition and development. Our story reflects both endurance and transformation. Like the narrative of the book, our spirit is not frozen in the past, but constantly evolving, finding new ways to assert sovereignty, cultural pride, and community resilience. In the Caribbean context, we are often viewed as the symbolic survivors of a broader indigenous legacy that many assume to be extinguished. An unconquerable spirit therefore becomes more than a literary theme. It is a lived reality in Dominica's Kalinago territory, where traditions are being revitalized and younger generations are reclaiming their heritage. As a reaction, this book challenges us to reframe how we view indigenous history in the region. Rather than a narrative of disappearance, the Kalinago story, like the title suggests, is one of persistence, renewal, and dignity. The unconquerable spirit of the Kalinago is not merely about survival. It is about shaping a future where the culture, knowledge systems, and identity flourishes alongside modern development. In Dominica, the Kalinagos have taken their rightful places in the halls of justice, in the hospitals as doctors, respected surgeons, in schools as principals, in the communities as successful businessmen and women, and also in Parliament. On September 27, 2023, we made history when Mrs. Sylvanie Burton was sworn in as the first ever female president and a Kalinago. We are also filled with the first female Kalinago chief, Annette Sanford. The current Minister of Environment is a Kalinago and a proud product of the Sir Arthur Louis Scholarship for Indigenous people that afforded people like myself and him who would not have been able to afford a university education to do so and serve our country proudly. At present, we also have the highest number of university graduates per capita in Dominica. This only shows that the Kalinago warrior spirit is alive in every one of the 3,500 people who live on 3,780 acres of land. It is said that women understood pain and struggle more intimately than men, and I am humbled that our Kalinago story was documented by a woman of equal innate strength like that of a Kalinago woman. For a woman is said to be the foundation upon which nations are built, and she is the heart of the nation. Dr. Seaman captured the essence of Kalinago struggle and survival. Too often our stories are told from someone else's perspective, and we are just so happy and proud that it's being told from Helen's perspective. And when this book was launched first in Barbados, I was proud because the Dominican contingent was headed, as you all saw, by the Kalinagos. And I also made a few, I informed the people that were there about some of the achievements that we have as Kalinago people. For example, after Hurricane Maria, when 98% of our housing stock was destroyed, what do you think happened? And I'm sure Mrs. President is here, she will tell you that in the morning after Hurricane Maria, all you could hear was the pounding of hammers. The Kalinago people got up and they started rebuilding their homes. Some people only spent one night at a family's home. The next night they were back in their homes because they had put back up their roofs, they had put back up their windows so they could sleep in their own homes. And I'd like to say that the government has been making significant improvements and contributions towards tourism. For example, I know if you all look at any of our flyers, you will see a Kalinago. You cannot go to a destination marketing campaign and not have the Kalinagos front page. And we are now, from the Ministry of Tourism perspective, investing in the Kalinago as the Kalinago pillar. We are improving all our sites within the Kalinago territory. We have 13 sites that we are constantly improving. We are working with the tour operators, with the tour guides, to ensure that we get our piece of the tourism pie. And I am honestly proud to stand here this evening to say that I know that Helen will be proud of her vision for the Kalinago people, and she will be proud of all our achievements thus far. And as I said before, we are taking our places, our rightful places in Dominica, and there's nowhere to go but up. And in conclusion, an unconquerable spirit can be read and should be read as a tribute to indigenous resilience worldwide. But for the Kalinago, and for me as a Kalinago woman, it feels deeply personal. Our history embodies the very essence of the title, a refusal to be erased, a strength rooted in heritage, and a vision for continuity. It is a reminder that we the Kalinagos, like so many indigenous people, remain unconquered, living testaments of enduring powers of light. And before I leave, I'd like to say thank you again to the family for inviting me to represent the Kalinago people here this evening. And I have started reading the book, and I invite all of you to purchase one to read it as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Frederick, for your powerful and inspiring words. We're almost near to the end of this evening's proceedings, but I would like to call on this time on Helen Francis Onunju, the daughter of Helen, to give us a few remarks.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I want to recognize that protocol has been established. And one thing that I want to start off with is I want to recognize that our 94-year-old, my grandmother and my mom's mom, obviously, is at home looking with her caregiver, who's also part of the Kalinago people. So that's kind of, I just want to shout out to our caregiver. So, Your Excellency, President Sylvanie Burton and Mr. Burton, Honorable Minister of Kalinago Affairs, Mr. Cozier Frederick, and of course, Glenn Frederick. Also, I would like to also mention the University of the West Indies and its library, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Professor Alan Colby, distinguished guests, family and friends, good evening. I would also like to mention Mr. and Mrs. Privo, who's obviously my family, as well as their daughters, Shana and Vanessa, my cousins, for helping us put this event together. I really appreciate that. So Gina and I were still children when our mother began traveling to Barbados to work on her thesis at the University of the West Indies on the Cave Hill campus. We remember those trips, the stack of notes, the quiet intensity with which she worked late into the night. At that age, we did not fully understand the weight of what she was doing, but we knew even then that she was fighting to make sure that history told the truth. Her doctoral thesis, previously entitled Territoriality and Nationhood, Colonial Disposition and the Resurgent Identity of the Native Caribbean, was completed in 1999 under the supervision of her mentor, Sir Hilary Beckles. He worked closely with her, not just while she was alive, but beyond, ensuring that her research would not be lost. With the painstaking support of Professor Alan Colby, who edited the manuscript, and Professor Beckles, who championed it, her work has now become this book, An Unconquerable Spirit, the Indigenous Resistance to Colonization in the Caribbean Windward Islands. At its heart was her mission to dismantle a long tradition of misrepresentation. For centuries, the Kalinago were reduced by outsiders to caricatures, described as savages, cannibals, or obstacles to progress. Historians repeated these stereotypes without ever engaging with the living Kalinago people themselves. Our mother rejected that. She was fierce about grounding her work in sources that revealed that the Kalinago, not as relics of the past, but as actors in a continuous story of resistance, resilience, and survival. She examined missionary reports, colonial correspondence, and archives in London, Paris, and Dominica. But unlike many who came before her, she read these not as unquestioned truth, but as evidence of how Europeans used writing itself as a weapon, constructing narratives to justify conquest. Her thesis showed how the Spanish, English, and French exaggerated or invented charges of cruelty, cannibalism, and savagery to legitimize colonial violence. She revealed how Taino stories were manipulated to paint the Kalinago as dangerous, how historians like William Young and Charles Shepard wrote them out of Caribbean modernity, and how even Enlightenment thinkers repeated these distortions. She demonstrated that the Kalinago were never passive victims, but active resistors in warfare, in negotiations, and in survival. She traced how Kalinago adopted to changing systems, trade, slavery, land dispossession, while preserving their identity. She highlighted how their story was connected to the rise of the Garifuna, to anti-slavery struggles, and to post-emancipation debates about freedom and sovereignty. She argued that to truly understand Caribbean history, we must see the Kalinago not at the margins, but at the center. This is why this book matters so deeply today. The issues she raised about identity, sovereignty, survival, and how history is told remain urgent. They resonate in Dominica, in the Kalinago territory, and across the Caribbean, where communities still fight misrepresentation and erasure. An Unconquerable Spirit is not just a work of history, it is a call to truth. For Gina and me, the memories of her making this book are vivid. I remember being shown a copy of her thesis for the first time, so large, so dense, and wondering if we would ever be able to read it. It was like legitimately huge. But I was also 10, right? So, I'm sorry. I'm wondering if we would ever be able to read it. I can still see her at a large computer, surrounded by hundreds of floppy disks, typing and retyping and never giving up. She would tell me that education is not about the degrees on the wall, but about what you do with what you've learned. And despite her academic work in Barbados, she never let us feel far away. Every night she would call us on the landline, listening patiently to our stories from primary school. On holidays, she would bring us with her, take us to Cape Shepherd Mall, let us pick a Barbie doll or bring back a toy when we couldn't travel. It never felt like she was absent, even when she was. That was the kind of mother she was. Her commitment to education extended far beyond her thesis. She helped found the Dominica State College and worked to forge relationships with the U.S. universities. She was instrumental in establishing the credit system, now widely used, allowing Dominican students to transfer abroad without prohibitive costs that once held them back. She wanted every Dominican student to have a fighting chance at a bachelor's degree. In July 2014, she was diagnosed with cancer. When we heard the news, it was Gina and I who cried, not her. The cancer was debilitating, and she endured 6 long months of agony, yet she carried it with grace. That was who my mother was, a fighter. She fought to remain alive, but on January 30th, 2015, she passed. Even in those final moments, her thoughts were of the future. She hoped for a better world through education, that children would learn to seek truth through scholarship, that they would reject false narratives, that knowledge would always be used for justice. That hope brought her joy even at the end. And that is why we, as a family, established the Helen Francis Seaman Scholarship at the Convent High School, awarded each year to the outstanding student in history. It is a way of ensuring her mission lives on, that young people continue to pursue truth with the courage and passion she embodied. For us, this book is not only an academic work, it is our mother's spirit captured on the page. She gave everything she had, her intellect, her energy, her compassion, even the clothes off her back when someone was in need. She lived with courage, and she left us with a legacy of truth, love, and resilience. On behalf of Gina and myself, I wish to thank Professor Beckles for mentoring our mother and supporting her vision, Professor Colby for painstakingly editing and shepherding her thesis into publication, the University of the West Indies and its library for preserving and honoring her scholarship, Ian Randall Publishing for placing this book in the hands of the world, and all of you here today for bearing witness. I also wish to acknowledge and recognize those she herself acknowledged in her thesis, Dr. Carl Watson, Dr. Anthony Phillips, and Dr. Pedro Welch, who offered her guidance and useful information, along with my grandmother, whose support sustained her throughout this work. Our mother once dedicated her thesis to her parents. This published edition now stands as a dedication to her. For Helen Francis Seaman, beloved daughter, mother, teacher, historian, and friend. Her voice lives on in these pages, her spirit lingers in every argument, and her legacy continues in every student, every reader, and every Kalinago child who learns that their history is not marginal, but central to the story of this region. She was and remains unconquerable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Renee, for those closing remarks. And now we want to do something a little more relaxed. We want to present a few of the books to some special people. So we'd like to call firstly on Her Excellency, Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, to receive a copy of the book, and we'll allow Renee to present her with the book. It's right there on it. We also want to present a copy of the book to the Honorable Minister, Mr. Kozia Frederick. And we would also like to present a copy of the book to the representative of the library, Dominica